I acquired 3 businesses in the last 12 months that added £1 million of revenue. How did I do this? Well, in this video, I'm going to take you through the key 8 steps that you need to learn in the process to acquiring a business. I'm going to talk about the pros and the cons, and I'm also going to tell you about some case studies, i.e. the businesses I purchased. However, there are downsides to this strategy, which I'll share later in the video. So in the first thing, what is M&A? Well, mergers and acquisitions. It's kind of shorthand for buying, acquiring, selling, merging businesses together, right? Now, it seems like a very complex thing. The information on it isn't very accessible. Aren't really many YouTube videos on it, podcasts, books, anything. Compared to property, it is quite misty. It's a bit of a mystery of like, well, what is this thing? How do I do it? How do we buy businesses for no money down, for a little bit of money? How do we structure things? And as you'll see, this world is kind of open to a lot of interpretation and is quite flexible in how you do things. Now, the reason I got into M&A is because I was always going to set up certain businesses, food business, car business, whatever it is. And that comes with a cost. Time, money, resources, effort, whatever. And, my friend D. Ludlow had done some M&A in the past and he was doing it more heavily at the time. And actually looking at what he was teaching and looking at the numbers of it, I thought, and the way you can structure finance, I just thought, well, actually, I could spend that much money starting something, right? Or probably more, actually, especially in my examples. And I wouldn't have any income from day one. I'd probably be making a loss for X many months. It would be pretty tough, and it may not necessarily go well. And yes, I get to have my own brand and call it what I like, but you could still do that with other businesses that you buy. And so I analysed the two and I just found that buying it was a lot better in pretty much every single way than it was than starting it. Now, of course, there's certain businesses in tech or, where you have an idea or you have a concept that's so brand new and you're building it and you can't necessarily acquire that. So you have to start that. But within that, you can still acquire a data division of this. So there's always a way to work in M&A. And so I learned what I needed to learn, and obviously I now teach it. And I went about finding a business. Now, before I talk about the hunt for the right business and the kind of numbers it entails, there's a few different types of acquisitions. You can, usually it's share purchase, i.e. you're buying the limited company, you're buying the business in entirety. There's asset purchase, so you're just buying the assets, the diggers, the scaffolding, whatever it is for the business. Now, M&A is not set in a way like property is, where you have to follow the property law, protocols or whatever. You can kind of do things how you want. So whilst these might be the 2 main types of acquisitions and sales, as you'll learn, you really can just work it out between yourselves. There's no wrong or right necessarily in the way in which you're buying it. Now, how do you find businesses? Well, is there a right move for businesses like there is for property? Well, kind of. It's called Right Biz. I wonder where they got the name from. Not a very good platform. Most people who post, it's just a rubbish advert. It's shite, it really is. Brokers use it. Now, surely we can go to brokers just like we go to real estate agents, right? And find deals. And if you're a business broker watching this, I don't know, you're probably an idiot, sorry. You may not realize it, but I can tell you are. 99.9% of business brokers are absolute complete morons. Yeah? And I mean this. Now, people hate on estate agents and stuff, and I get that. A lot of them are idiots. Fine. Honestly, they are angels sent from heaven compared to business brokers. No clue what they're doing. The juniors especially are totally useless. Seniors have such an ego and they're in the game for so long. They all just lie to people selling, make up massive multiples, fuck with the data so it looks better than it is. They've been turning over 100 grand for 3 years, and the last year they did 200, and so we're going to base it off the 200. Huh? Always asking dumb questions, always asking for dumb bits of information. Honestly, I found one good business broker, I think. And even then, he's probably so good that his sellers get such a good deal and we don't as buyers. So, yeah. don't sort of think that you're just going to find them. Now look, some of the best ways to find them are networking. Well, there's two ways. Networking, Facebook ads potentially, which is marketing, so put under marketing, and then direct marketing, so direct leaflets or email lists. I started off with a couple hundred on my email list and thought, yeah, get some hits on this. I probably have 9,000 right now on my list. And that's actually concentrated in a few different areas, and home counties is what they say. It's not all over the country. I know people with double, triple that who are, looking all over the country. So you got to think the volume of emails and outreach. And I did try letters for garages, but they, cash businesses, dodgy. Anyways, so that's the number of emails that I'm sending out repeatedly, right? Because you're going to email them once, they're not going to reply again. Twice, 3, 4 times a lady, and then you might get a reply. Or you might not, which is most of the time. Yes, you can get phone numbers, you can call them as well. You could definitely do cold calling, but my God, that's going to take forever. It's also super cold. With an email, at least they can click on your link. It's, just feels a little bit warmer. But nothing to stop you hiring someone and cold calling. If you're on a mission and you've got budget, go for it. Honestly, go for it, because I think it could be fruitful, especially when you follow up with an email and, whatever. But yeah, you really, really are going to spend a lot of time and potentially money getting the data, emailing the data, following up with it, having calls, having meetings, dealing with idiots, people who think their business is valued so much more than it is, to really get to a business you can buy. Now look, I'm not going to go into detail of like the numbers and kind of what I've done. I'll do that in another video, or you can contact me, send me a DM, look at the link in my bio. Now, once you find a business or businesses that you're like, okay, they want to sell, we're sort of aligned, it's kind of going okay, blah, blah, blah. You then have to be Sherlock Holmes. That was a what is it called? Magnifying glass. Or Inspector Gadget. Remember Inspector Gadget? Wicked program. Nice theme tune as well. I wonder if they still have that. Anyways, you have to do due diligence on this business like never before. Now, property analysis, which some of you will be familiar with, is one thing and is a level. And you have comparables, right? On the same street. You can give or take, guess what the house will be worth or work it out. With a business, there are no comparables. And this is what I was saying earlier on in the video. You can do what you want and you can look at what you want and analyze it however you want, which means it's really hard for beginners, right? And when I teach people, M&A, they struggle with this element because they're like, well, what do I base it off? There's no comparison level. Got a bunch of data, like, okay, industry multiples are 1 to 10 depending on the sector. Okay, but they haven't got a management team. Okay, so then what happens then to the multiple? Oh, they've got incredible staff and they got contracts with all these big companies. Cool. Then what does that do to the multiple? There's so many things that go into due diligence that even just reading accounts, people don't know how to read accounts. If you've had a company before, sure, your accountant's done it or, and you've put it together. But actually analyzing it, knowing what questions to ask, knowing what red flags are and actually what green flags are is so important. Not getting fazed by, we've got big contracts, this, that, and the other. It's like, well, yeah, but what do those mean? Big corporate contracts aren't always great because they're negotiated on their terms and they treat you like shit. It's just, there's so much, especially in certain sectors, certain businesses, that goes into analyzing this. You don't want any hidden surprises. Of course, you do like deferred payments, maximum of whatever percentage up front, but you just still don't want surprises later down the line. Getting into litigation later can be done, of course, and you're likely to win if everything's done correctly and it hasn't been spoken about. And I know people who have. I have actually as well. But, you need to know what you're looking out for. And also if things could crop up, what have you put in the contract for clawing things back later on? I've done that with my second cleaning business and I've clawed back a lot of money, not because I want to, but because the terms and conditions weren't met and certain things were not adhered to. And the seller was like, look, fine, it's what we agreed to. Probably had some level of expectation, we're doing that. And of course you can have earnouts where it's based on their performance if they stay in the business. And so I'm saying there's so many different things. And this brings me to my next point, which is negotiation. Asking the right questions, conveying why you're valuing at a certain point. I usually screen share or record my screen on the spreadsheet, work it all out, send it to them and say, what are your thoughts? Just to be like, look, I'm being transparent. I'm not working some magical formula into this or like everything I'm saying and doing is transparent and it works. And this really, really works. Really big tip that I give to my mentees is like, is this transparency? Like when you're offering on a property, say, here's why. It needs this, this, and this at this cost, and it's got subsidence, and it's got this. Same thing, people. I think being flexible in negotiations is important. Finding out what's important to them and flexing on them is important. Oh, they want it quick, they want it slow, they want to earn more in the future, they want you to look after certain members of staff, whatever it is, find out. And, I think, the DD and the negotiation process is really where your sort of personal skills, your relationship that you've built with the seller or sellers is going to be so, so important, right? Because people will want to sell to you, even if they have a higher offer, if they like you, and if they believe that you are going to continue their business, for the greater good, and you're not going to be a hindrance or like this big corporate player or whatever it is, right? Honestly, people care about their staff and their businesses, as we all should. And a lot of the times, and I've seen this, so many people, my colleagues doing M&A and myself, they will want to sell to you because they like you. I've had one person say, look, Tej, I had a few other people kind of mention it, but I've spoken to you twice. Like, I want you to buy it. Like, simple as that. So you tell me what works. And I was like, okay, obviously don't take advantage of that. And, you also need to know where you'll walk away. You also need to know when it becomes not profitable, when the risks are too high, when it just doesn't interest you anymore. In all negotiations, in all conversations in life, you need to have that walk away point. When do you walk away and why do you walk away? And then how do you communicate that to them? I offered on a sandwich buffet business the other day. And, we were pretty far off. And so I walked away. I said, look, here's my offer. We're obviously miles away. You've got 10 other people interested, apparently. Unlikely. Come back to me if you want. My offer stands for a week. After that, we'll have to see what happens. And then, of course, it comes to financing the deal. There are some good business brokers out there in terms of finance brokers. Also some terrible ones. Some really, really good finance products out there. It's not as straightforward as like mortgages or bridging, but there are ways to finance, and I've seen, in the group that I'm part of, tens of millions of pounds of deals funded. Like, it's insane what you can get funded and the structure they fund it and how much you don't have to put in. But look, a lot of the time, to buy a big, healthy business, you probably will put in some money. It could just be solicitor fees, which could be 10 grand. It could be accountancy fees, a couple of grand. It could be some sort of deposit. You will potentially have to put in some money. Now, there are ways of doing it without, right? The simplest way is raising investor finance. All the 3 businesses I've purchased, I've put in how much? Guess how much, people? I can hear you in the back. Zero. It's been investor funds, which have then been paid back from the profits of the business. And also the sellers have been paid back from the profits. So, I borrowed money, I paid half up front, the other half I've never really paid because it's come out the profits of the business. Yes, I don't get those profits, but it didn't come out of my pocket. I don't have to pay it or have it. So, there's so many smart ways of using finance, using investors, using deal structure. And actually, this is why deal structure and that negotiation in DD is so important, because your deal structure can massively influence the type of finance you'll get or not get, but also influence how much you need and therefore how much interest you have to pay and how that then affects the business moving forward, right? So many ways to play with it. And this is why M&A probably isn't talked about as much online, because it is so complex, But when I have my mentees and I train them in this and we're going through things, this kind of middle bit, the DD, the finance, the negotiation, the structure, is what people struggle with the most. The lead generation and everything they get, post-acquisition they get if, and obviously I help them post-acquisition as well. But this middle bit is always the trickiest one because it's so open. There are no comparison levels. And of course, look, you financed it, you bought the deal, great. You obviously got to have a good power team. I can introduce you to mine. But then what happens after the business? And this is where a lot of, people come to me for support, whether they came before or not. But it's, okay, how do I run it now? How do I make it more efficient? How do I make the ops leaner? How do I make more profit? How do I deal with staff? How do I fight it? Right? How do I recruit? How do I hire? Whoa. You think the buying the business is hard? Shit, try running it, boy. It's, what I mean? But people, that is my, whistle stop tour to M&A and, the kind of top level steps that you have to take to to buy and sell businesses with confidence. So if you've liked that, hit the bell icon, hit the like button, give me a thumbs up, go up on Spotify or Apple Music and leave me a review, please. I really appreciate it. This is part of my 30 bits of content in 30 days. So as you can imagine, lots of effort goes into this. And people don't see that. So people, hit that subscribe button and I will see you on the next video. By the way, there's a link in the description. Click on that. See what happens. It's not a Rickroll. Remember though,